Welcome back to the channel, where powerful stories come to life. Today's story is not just about wealth or fame. It's about hunger. It's about loss. It's about a young boy who had absolutely nothing and still chose not to surrender. This is a journey of a child who grew up with empty pockets, an empty stomach, and no safety net. No money, no comfort, no one to guide him. He faced cold nights, long days, and the kind of loneliness that breaks most people. But he refused to let his circumstances define him. At just 13 years old, he made a decision that sounded impossible. With no money, barely any food, and nowhere to sleep, he walked nearly 470 kilometers over 2 years just to reach a city filled with opportunity. He survived storms, hunger, rejection, and exhaustion. Step by step, he kept moving forward. That boy would one day build one of the most powerful luxury empires the world has ever known, Louis Vuitton. How did a homeless child become the founder of a global brand? How did pain turn into power? How did struggle transform into legacy? Every detail of this story is real. Every hardship, every breakthrough. Stay with me until the end, because this isn't just motivation. It's a lesson in resilience, ambition, and growth. And as you listen, you'll naturally strengthen your English through this incredible journey. Let's go back to the beginning. In 1821, in a small French village called Anchy, a baby boy was born into a poor working family. His name was Louis Vuitton. Life did not greet him with comfort. His father, Xavier, was a carpenter who built simple wooden pieces to survive. His mother, Caron, made hats for local women. They worked endlessly, yet still struggled to put food on the table. Their home was small and fragile, with cold floors and a roof that barely held against harsh winters. Snow covered the village for months. There was no heating, no luxury, no comfort. From a young age, Louis understood something most children never have to learn so early. Life is not fair. While wealthy children studied and played, he carried heavy wood beside his father. His hands hardened before his teenage years. His clothes were worn. Many nights. Hunger followed him to sleep, but there was something different about him. He didn't just see poverty. He saw possibility. Travelers often passed through his village. Well-dressed men and women carried elegant wooden trunks, decorated with brass locks and polished finishes. Louis would watch them closely. Where were they going? What was beyond this small village? Who built those beautiful trunks? He had never seen the world outside his surroundings, yet his mind traveled far beyond them. He didn't have money. He didn't have education. But he had curiosity. And sometimes that is more powerful than both. Then tragedy struck. At just 10 years old, Louis lost his mother. There were no proper doctors, no real medical care. Illness took her slowly. One morning, she was gone. He stood silently at her grave, too shocked to cry. His father, crushed by grief, became distant. The warmth in their small home disappeared completely. That was the moment something changed inside him. He decided he would not stay trapped in poverty forever. He would leave. He would find something bigger. But Paris, the city of opportunity, was nearly 470 kilometers away. For a 13-year-old boy with no money, no horse, and no plan, it seemed impossible. One evening, while the village slept, he packed a small bag. No map, no guide, no goodbye. Before sunrise, he began walking. The journey was brutal. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Sometimes kind strangers offered him food. Other times, he slept hungry under trees. He worked on farms in exchange for meals. Rain soaked his clothes. Winter winds cut through his skin. His feet blistered and bled. But he never turned back. After 2 long years, he finally reached Paris. The city overwhelmed him. Carriages filled the streets. Markets overflowed with food and fine goods. The smell of fresh bread and perfume surrounded him. It felt like another world. But Paris had a darker side, too. Poverty crowded the streets. Beggars fought for scraps. Work was hard to find. And Louis arrived with nothing. His first night, he slept inside an abandoned wooden cart near a bakery. The smell of warm bread made his hunger worse. The streets were loud. Rats searched for food nearby. He pulled his small bag close and tried to rest. The next morning, he began searching for work. Shop after shop rejected him. No experience, no references, no opportunities. Days passed. He survived on scraps from markets. His body weakened. For the first time since leaving home, fear crept into his heart. Then everything changed in one moment. He saw a man struggling to carry a large wooden trunk into a workshop. Without hesitation, Lewis ran forward and helped him lift it. Inside, he saw something that felt familiar, beautifully crafted trunks lining the walls. The workshop owner, Monsieur Marichal, watched him carefully. "You're strong," he said. "What's your name?" "Louis Vuitton, sir." "What do you want?" "A job." "Can you make trunks?" "No, sir, but I can learn." There was a long pause. Finally, the man agreed. No salary at first, just work and learning. It wasn't much, but to Louis, it was everything. He arrived before sunrise every day. At first, he swept floors and carried tools. Weeks passed with no promotion, but instead of complaining, he stayed after hours, practicing in secret. He studied every detail, how it was cut, how leather was stitched, how locks were installed. One morning, the owner found a small piece Louis had crafted on his own. The lines were clean, the stitching precise. From that day forward, he began teaching him properly. Years passed. Louis transformed from a poor village boy into a master craftsman. His designs were lighter, cleaner, and more precise than others. Wealthy customers started asking for him by name. By the age of 20, he was no longer invisible. He was respected. Then came the opportunity that changed everything. One day, a royal visitor entered the workshop, Eugenie de Montijo, the wife of Napoleon III. She needed something different. Traditional trunks were heavy, rounded at the top, and difficult to stack. Travel was changing, but luggage had not evolved. Louis saw the flaw immediately. He proposed something bold, a flat-top trunk, lightweight yet durable, covered in waterproof canvas instead of heavy leather. Stackable, practical, elegant. It was a risk. No one had redesigned trunks like that before, but the Empress was intrigued. She gave him the chance. Louis worked tirelessly. He selected lightweight poplar wood for strength without weight. He created a flat top, so trunks could stack easily during travel. And instead of leather, he used durable coated canvas that resisted moisture and stains. When the trunk was finished, it wasn't just luggage. It was innovation. The Empress loved it. Her approval changed everything. His name spread among the elite of Paris. Soon, aristocrats and travelers sought his designs. He eventually opened his own workshop. That workshop would grow into a global symbol of luxury, craftsmanship, and status. Louis Vuitton. From a hungry boy sleeping under trees to the creator of one of the world's most recognized luxury brands. This journey was never about luck. It was about resilience. It was about walking 470 kilometers when staying home would have been easier. It was about learning when others doubted him. It was about seeing possibility where others saw limitation. He didn't start with resources. He started with courage. And sometimes that is all it takes. No one had ever seen anything like it. Days melted into weeks. Louis hardly slept. His fingers were sliced and sore, stained with glue and polish. He forgot to eat, forgot to rest. All he cared about was one thing, building the perfect trunk. When it was finally finished, it was stunning. The canvas caught the light with a soft glow. The surface was sleek, almost flawless. The brass locks shined like gold, snapping shut with confidence. Every stitch was precise, every corner perfectly shaped. This wasn't just luggage. It was art. The day of the presentation arrived. Louis stood inside the grand hall of the Empress's palace, his heart pounding in his chest. Around him, nobles and high-ranking officials whispered quietly, barely hiding their doubt. To them, he was just a young craftsman in simple clothes. Then the Empress entered. Her gown flowed behind her like water. The room fell silent as her eyes settled on the trunk. She said nothing at first. She stepped closer and ran her fingers across the smooth canvas. She examined the locks, the stitching, the finish. The silence stretched painfully long. No one breathed. Finally, she looked at him. "Vuitton," she said softly. "This is extraordinary." A wave of murmurs filled the hall. Marichal, the man who once doubted Louis, stared in disbelief. From this day forward, the Empress continued, "You will be my personal trunk maker." And just like that, everything changed. Winning the trust of the most powerful woman in France was more than an honor. It was a doorway into a new world. Suddenly, Paris wanted Vuitton trunks. Aristocrats, politicians, wealthy travelers. Orders poured in, but there was a problem. Louis was still working under someone else. No matter how talented he was, he would always answer to another man. He wanted freedom. After years of loyalty, he made the boldest choice of his life. He left the workshop and started his own business. With the small savings he had, about the equivalent of $1,000 today, he rented a tiny space in Paris. It wasn't impressive, just a simple room, a few tools, and one workbench. But it was his. Outside, he hung a wooden sign. Louis Vuitton Maladier, trunk maker. The poor village boy was now a business owner. The beginning was brutal. No employees, no factory, no safety net. Every trunk was crafted by his own hands. He worked from sunrise until midnight, barely stopping to eat. Then disaster struck. War exploded across France. The Franco-Prussian War. Paris turned chaotic. Wealthy clients fled. Businesses shut down. Luxury became meaningless in a city fighting to survive. Orders stopped. Money disappeared. Louis stood on the edge of ruin. For months, he fought to keep his dream alive. He sold tools, cut back on materials, worked even harder. But time was running out. Then, just when everything seemed lost, the war ended. Peace returned. And with peace came something powerful. The desire to travel again. People wanted elegance, innovation, style, and they wanted Louis Vuitton. Orders flooded back in. The once quiet shop became one of the most talked about businesses in Paris. But Louis didn't just recover. He expanded. In 1871, he opened a larger workshop in Asnières, just outside Paris. It was 4 times bigger than his original shop. He hired workers, trained apprentices, designed new collections. His small dream was turning into an empire. At the same time, his personal life was growing too. He married Clemence Emily Perrose, a strong and supportive partner who believed in him completely. They had a son, Georges Vuitton, who would one day carry the brand forward. But success demanded sacrifice. Louis chased perfection relentlessly. Late nights in the workshop meant missed birthdays, missed family dinners, missed quiet moments. From the beginning, he understood something many businessmen didn't. If you want your brand to last, you sell to the powerful. The wealthy shape trends. They influence society. If nobles carried Vuitton trunks, everyone else would dream of owning one. And rich clients never argued about price. Louis never chased the masses. He focused on a select group willing to pay for excellence and exclusivity. The strategy worked. Soon bankers, businessmen, and world travelers joined the nobles in ordering his trunks. Owning a Louis Vuitton trunk became more than travel. It became a statement. In 1892, Louis Vuitton passed away, leaving everything to his son Georges. Before he died, he gave Georges one final lesson. Never sell cheap. Never chase everyone. Our name must always mean the best. The world can change, but we must never lose what makes us special. Georges listened, young and ambitious. He pushed the brand further. He expanded beyond trunks into handbags, travel accessories, and even luxury storage pieces. But as the brand grew, so did imitation. Cheap copies flooded the market. To protect the name, Georges introduced the iconic LV monogram in 1896, a design meant to fight counterfeits and preserve exclusivity. Under his leadership, the brand didn't just survive, it dominated. But time moves on. As automobiles and airplanes reshaped travel, traditional trunks became less essential. By 1936, Georges passed away, and the future of the empire was uncertain. That's when Gaston Louis Vuitton stepped forward. He had grown up surrounded by craftsmanship, but the world he inherited was harsh. The Great Depression had shaken economies. Travel habits were changing. People wanted more than luggage. Gaston adapted. He expanded into smaller leather goods, elegant purses, everyday luxury items. He pushed Louis Vuitton into fashion, not just travel. Then World War II erupted. France fell under occupation. Businesses struggled to survive. Gaston faced impossible choices to keep the company alive, decisions that would remain controversial for decades. But the brand endured. After the war, Europe was economically broken. Yet Gaston knew something important. The wealthy never truly disappear. So Louis Vuitton focused again on high-end, exclusive products for those who could still afford luxury. By the 1950s, the brand was strong again. Iconic bags emerged. The Speedy, the Keepall, the No. Louis Vuitton was no longer just about trunks. It was a fashion symbol. By the 1960s, the company needed fresh leadership. Gaston brought in his son-in-law, Henry Rackemeyer, a visionary businessman. Henry saw massive potential. Louis Vuitton was respected, but it wasn't global. He changed that. He expanded into the United States, Japan, and the Middle East. He raised prices, understanding that higher cost meant higher desire. Stores became luxurious experiences, offering VIP treatment and elegance. The brand targeted the top 1%, millionaires, celebrities, royalty, exotic leather pieces, limited editions, private custom trunks worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Exclusivity became the strategy, but with popularity came counterfeits. Fake bags filled streets worldwide. Henry launched aggressive anti-counterfeit campaigns, legal battles, investigators, security features. The brand fought back hard. Then came a historic decision. In 1987, Louis Vuitton merged with Moët and Chandon and Hennessy, forming LVMH, a luxury powerhouse controlling fashion, jewelry, cosmetics, and fine spirits. It was a new era, but power attracts ambition. In 1989, a young businessman named Bernard Arnault took control of LVMH, pushing Henry aside. The move was bold and controversial. Under Arnault, LVMH expanded rapidly, acquiring major fashion houses, entering emerging markets like China and India, building a global luxury empire. Today, LVMH is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Bernard Arnault is often ranked among the richest people in the world. And Louis Vuitton? It remains a crown jewel, owning an LVP signal status. Success, wealth, every item is crafted with precision and tradition. After more than 170 years, the brand still stands at the top. And it all began with one young boy who left his village with nothing but determination. Louis Vuitton's story is not just about bags or trunks. It's about vision, risk, relentless excellence. Through wars, economic crashes, and power struggles, the name survived. This isn't just a company. It's a legacy,